Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon, New York. You're listening to What Happened Here, and we are here every Wednesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. on WVOX asking the question, what happened here with a particular situation? Today, our discussion is really going to center around a couple of different topics. There's a lot going on in the nation, as you know. We have the unfortunate, um, brutal, horrific murder of Tyree Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee. Thankfully, justice is being served there. The people responsible are being held accountable, and it's being done swiftly. But I do later on the show, we'll talk about gun violence. We're supposed to have special guests come in, but we first have a very special guest that's going to talk with us in a few moments. I'm going to introduce him. Very courageous person to join the line and talk with us about what's happening with Mount Vernon schools and something that happened in Mount Vernon that relates to public safety. And this is where we're going to touch upon a very important topic on the loss of Kayla Green, young lady, beautiful lady, a daughter of Mount Vernon, who had the world in front of her. And we have with us today her dad, Marlon, who's on the line, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about the journey that he's going through right now and how the city has truly failed him and his family, and how more should have been done by the schools. But we're going to talk about that in a moment. Later on in the show, we'll open up the lines. I know that Marlon is pressed for time, but I do want to introduce and welcome him to the line. Marlon, thank you for joining. I think Marlon's definitely taking, yeah, doing well, hanging in there. And I know you're running down on time. You're at work and you're sharing your time with us. I just want to, first, offer my condolences and sincere, um, support for you and your family as you go through this chapter in your life, having lost a daughter and having seen that justice was truly not served based on the sentence that was handed down the other day.
Yeah, that's right, man. No, no, no justice at all. No justice. They
Can
take the time that they get three to nine. Walk my way.
Yeah, and it's just 3 years. This in 3 years we will not be celebrating Kayla's graduation or going to college or going to prom. 3 years we'll be debating potential parole for this person. So I just, my heart goes out to you and your family. And this is something that, we all wonder, what happened in your eyes, what happened, what broke down, what did not happen, that you see as a father that was raising, you know, an awesome young lady.
Man, so much, right now, man. I serve every day, you know what I'm saying? You send your daughter to school. You know, when you send your daughter to school, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You go to school, you taking care of what I gotta do. You know?
Absolutely.
It's like, you're part of it. It's not gonna shoot. You know?
He was,
You know, I don't know, shit. She was, sharing. But she a part of the school. She's special, you know?
and
And it's so messed up to know that not even I
and any no counseling, no support, no outreach for Kayla's little sister. Just they just went silent.
nah, one was like we're doing that on our own, you know, like
Now, can you tell me, well, what I heard was the school district is now calling on the state attorney general to investigate Mount Vernon City Hall because they're owed $12 million from the city. You know, Or maybe they're now trying to say that because the city didn't give them their money, they were unable to do anything. I don't know. We're gonna ask some of these questions as we get closer to getting more details. But I just want to point out that Kayla was involved, as you pointed out. She was in programs. She had a great experience, great social life. But all of a sudden, there were breakdowns.
Yeah, that's it.
And when you brought these things to the attention of, people at the school district or people inside City Hall, what was the response from City Hall?
Man, it's like, from my understanding, there and all right now, it's like you said, like something going on. It's like, right? A lot of situations that is going on.
Hmm.
They
I'm gonna make sure that when, you know, we're gonna bring back the right level of services, and we'll talk about, hopefully making ambulance corps dedicated in the name of your daughter so that nobody has to experience the pain and trauma that you have experienced. But
exactly.
but I know that there are a lot of people listening. And is there anything that you want to say to the city or to the school district, or even to people out there that haven't heard your view? Is there anything that you want to share about Kayla or about the situation that nobody has heard you say?
Well, I mean, for the most part, that's not trailing, but one like, like, this way, you know, it's the failure, like, what happened, what it break down on in the outcome, the ending of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And today I know the governor is making she's presenting her budget, and she's making calls for changes in criminal justice. Hopefully, some of those changes will result in people being held more accountable for their actions, not, being able to.
yeah, you don't get a seven, like, sitting right now, man, it's that, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not gonna get to see Kayla family, the whole family. Yeah, and this is like, it's so messed up, so that ain't nothing really happened. No justice is like, you can get somebody 3 to 9, 14 for public, you know what I'm saying? That we're talking about somebody who's never see again in life.
Right.
You know
and
what I'm saying?
and
Ever, like, it ain't no make.
I understand. And I know it's hard to revisit this and to have to talk it through, and I appreciate you, sharing your time to tell your story. And I know that you're not done. I know that there's a fight ahead to bring accountability,
Yeah,
and
bro.
and it's terrible again that there's a lack of compassion and concern for for your family, for Kayla, and her friend Maynice, who was also a victim of this senseless violence. That
Definitely, yeah.
and just knowing the situation, the parade, the choices made by City Hall, and
Yeah,
it,
like, messed up, bro.
they want to do the photo ops, but they don't want to finish the job. They don't want to do the right thing by protecting our kids.
They keep going,
Yeah.
like, you deal with teenagers, like, you need security, like,
And
that's what you saying. I mean, you just need to feed this man, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, times to come, like, you don't want to see nobody in family going through the same situation like going through right now, you know?
that's right. and
Yeah,
and it's clear to me that you know that City Hall and there are some bureaucrats in the school district that did not appreciate the families that love their kids and want to see their kids succeed. And the choices they made was to play politics and to cover up, you know,
Exactly.
problems that could have prevented the
Yeah,
loss of Kayla.
exactly. Exactly.
So look, Marlon, I thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk with us. I just want to make sure you know that we're all here for you and we're going to support you and your family through this very difficult time. And we look forward to, getting justice for Kayla in the days ahead.
All right, man. I appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it, bro.
You got it. We'll talk again very soon. Don't
All
change
right,
that
thank you.
dial. Don't change that dial. You listen to what happened here on WVOX. So for all you out there listening, you heard from Kayla's dad, Marlon, WVOX, and he was telling us about how City Hall, and how the school district failed Kayla. And I just, I can't emphasize enough how terrible that is. But what I do know is we're going to talk about, some of the reasons that led to this failure of Kayla, because we can't let this go without a fight, guys. Like, this is just terrible. What happened to her and her loss, and just it's a disgrace that City Hall could have prevented it. The school district could have done a lot more to prevent it and stop it from happening. But when I really look at, City Hall's failure, they're the ones that didn't pay the school district all the money that they are due and owed. And it's clear that had we had the school resource officers and had we had um, the right resources, we could have really prevented a lot of problems that we're seeing right now in our community.
And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council. This is WVOX at 1460 for Crestwood, Mount Vernon, and the Bronx. 1460 WVOX. And now back to What Happened Here with Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon, on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here. And every Wednesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m., we ask the question of what happened here with the particular situation. And today we're asking a couple of questions. First question is what's going on with Mount Vernon schools and public safety. Um, our guest that called in a few moments ago was the father of Kayla Green. He shared with us a little bit about his frustration and anger about how the system failed him and how everybody failed Kayla, especially City Hall, and how they did not plan or take a stand on stopping bullying in the schools. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll unpack it because it's an important issue that we get into, especially since there was news broke yesterday that the Mount Vernon City School District is calling on the New York State Attorney General to investigate Mount Vernon's finances, and they want to know what happened to the $12 million that the school district is duly owed by the city. And there's a lot of discussion around it because um, for many years, everyone denied the reality that there was monies due to the school district, or there was something funny going on with Mount Vernon's money. But the truth is the truth, and the truth is out. The school district is calling on the state attorney general to investigate Mount Vernon's finances and find their missing 12 million because it's hurting programs. It's hurting, daily operations at the school district that, in my opinion, contributed to the loss of Kayla. If they don't have the money to hire the counselors or hire enough, have enough resources to address problems within the school, then they can't do their job completely, which leaves our kids vulnerable and in jeopardy of becoming victims of violence. And I believe we have a call on the line. Caller, Vince, are you there?
Yes, I am. How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Doing tremendous. Thanks for calling in, Vince.
Yes, well, I was listening to your guest. As a dad of a 16-year-old daughter, I can only imagine I try to imagine. I could never, the anguish that he must be facing, and then having to deal with the realities criminal justice, so-called justice system,
Hmm.
is probably even more. But I want to just pass a thought on to you. I think it's apropos, but maybe a bit tangential to a lot of conversation.
Talk to me.
What is, okay, just try this out. What is it about us as human beings that stops us hurting other people from getting involved in knowingly criminal activity, stealing, murdering? What is it? Now, that's a rhetorical question I'd like to try to answer.
Hmm.
A lot of it is, well, we're taught the so-called golden rule as we're children.
Hmm.
Parents that guide us, that we feel we have to answer to. There's fear that, well, if somebody catches me doing something, they might send me to a pulp. The other option is, well, if I do something, there's a chance I might be caught by the police or the authorities and have to surrender my liberty or my life. Some think. Then there's this other one that I want to just mention. This strikes some people a bit troubling.
Tell me.
Belief in an afterlife.
Mm.
People say religion was a human invention to help us explain to ourselves, thinking beings as we are, to what happens to us at the end of life. Hard, I suppose, us as thinking people, aware of our existence, contemplate its actual end. Some people say various religions were created that embody a belief in a afterlife to which we are responsible for our conduct on earth. So I'm just going to suggest we've made it almost a cause celeb to chase religion out of our public square and out of our lives. Not saying we should make religion part of public education, although it used to be. I'm sure you know that.
Hmm.
But here's the thing. I think we serve our society very well by being so antagonistic to the concept of a belief in a higher spirit or even perhaps the life to which we must account for ourselves at
Hmm.
death.
Hmm.
When there is no policeman around, when there is no parent around, you're on the street with a knife and somebody has gotten you up. What is it at that instant? I don't know. I'm just suggesting. Have we done ourselves good? Has it helped us as a society? We so vehemently express hostility towards religion. I don't think we have. Almost a disease like coronavirus. To be avoided at all costs. God forbid, that we even talk about it in school.
You know,
Offering that as a thought.
no, look, I accept it, and I just want to make sure like this is part of the reason why I think there needs to be a lot more choice with our tax dollars in terms of how we allocate them, and when it comes to education, I think that there should be a lot more consideration given to people that want to send their children to different types of schools, be it parochial schools, be it private schools. People should have that option to let their child go to the school and let their tax dollars go with the child. That's something that I think can help, families at least um, raise their children with the values and principles that they want instilled so that we can have more people in our community that have a view of life, a stronger connection to their moral compass. And what's wrong with having a relationship with God or your God that you so choose? So I'm in all favor of what you were talking about embracing faith. But what concerns me is that there are all these impediments and people want to get worked up about, oh, no, you want to take money away from this or take money away from that. No, we want to invest it with the people with which it rightfully belongs. Vince, I don't know if you can hang on the line over break, but don't change that dial. We have some more conversations to come. We're going to touch upon some other topics, including the migrant crisis in New York City. Don't change that dial. We're talking about what happened here. Hey guys, welcome back. I don't know what happened on the Instagram live feed, but I just want to say thank you for coming back on Instagram live. For some reason, I think the feed got frozen or it stopped, but you came in on the tail end of a conversation of a caller that was listening to our show earlier. For those that are coming back on from Instagram, that is, everybody on Facebook and YouTube were able to hear the interview with Marlon, who is Kayla's dad. Marlon was talking about his experience and how the city of Mount Vernon has truly let him down, and the justice system failed Kayla in terms of bringing justice for her death and giving her killer a slap on the wrist as opposed to a real punishment for the crime. So there's lots to unpack there, but the biggest thing that Marlon was talking about is how could the city put everybody in jeopardy from his daughter in particular who lost her life to all of the people that work for the city, the police officers included, that were surprised that the city was having a parade and there was no extra coverage, there were no extra details to deal with the crowds, there was no ambulance around in case something happened, and look, something did happen. So there was a lot that went wrong that day, and even now, there's just finger pointing and silence. And Marlon, broke that silence by making it clear that he's not going to give up the fight to make sure that his daughter's memory continues to live on. But he's going to fight to make sure that this never happens again. And I just want to thank him for coming on and being courageous to tell his story. But I also want to, invite you all to look at what's now happening. The school district, and I'm going to talk about this when I come back from break. I'm going to mention it to the caller that called in. Um, $12 million is missing from the Mount Vernon City School District, and thankfully, the school district finally said, "Enough's enough. Enough of the excuses and the political games. Give us our money because we can't fund our operations and uplift our kids." So they asked the New York State Attorney General Tish James, to come and look at Mount Vernon's finances. And we're going to talk about that because, how come, you know, 12 million can go missing in Mount Vernon and nobody does anything? They just shrug their shoulders and say, who cares? So now you have a black attorney general with a black city with green money missing, and we need to make sure that this is something that is fairly and impartially looked into because there are relationships politically between the attorney general and the people that are occupying City Hall right now. So there's a big concern there for me because I don't know if they're going to be able to do a full and fair investigation, knowing what really happened. So we're going to talk about it when we come back from break. We're coming back in a few moments. But I just want you all to know that we have a lot to go through. And the bottom line is the school district needs their money. They should get their money. And it's wrong for the mayor and the controller to play games with their money. We do know that real estate property was sold, and the school district is due their transfer tax from that real estate property being sold in Mount Vernon, and that's more millions that they haven't paid. But we're going to talk about that when we come back from break. Stay right there. Here we come. To your heart's content. Talk shows. Here we go. Your Westchester and Supply. 1460 WOX. And now back to what happened with Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon, on 1460 WVOX. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here on 1460 on the AM dial or worldwide on WVOX.com. Today, we're here every Wednesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. asking that question, what happened here? And the topic that we started with was about public safety in schools and in the city of Mount Vernon. We had a very special guest, a person who is, just was totally robbed of having a beautiful daughter and a tremendous life ahead of her. We had Kayla Green's father on talking with us about the pain and anguish he's going through and the frustration he's experiencing with the city of Mount Vernon and the school district for not, doing the right thing to protect his daughter, but more of shocking about how the city of Mount Vernon did not do enough to protect um, from these types of situations where there's no crowd control after the parade and there was no safety planning and everybody was surprised. Even the police department was surprised that a parade was happening and there was no, plan put in place by the police leadership there. And we lost his daughter, and it's a disgrace that even the justice system failed his daughter, Kayla, by giving her killer only 3 years. And that's something that, in 3 years, we're not going to celebrate Kayla's life. We're not going to celebrate Kayla going to prom or graduating high school, going to college. I mean, we're going to be debating parole for her killer. And that's something that, again, it's part of our justice system, but injustice, this feels like a tremendous injustice that someone, as the family expressed, could take a life and then get a second chance at theirs in a few short months. But we had a call in Vince that raised the prospect of, religion and why how come religion is not welcome in public spaces and we got into a discussion a little bit about taxes and how taxes education dollars could be used to properly give parents a choice to send their kids to school where they want to go. And that's something that I believe should be done given the lack of affordability and how everything is going up in price. There should be at least a little bit more consideration to allow parents to make their own choice. But before we pick up on that topic, I just want to ask Vince if he heard about what the Mount Vernon City School District said. Did you hear about the news about the Mount Vernon City School District saying, hey, Attorney General Tish James, there's $12 million missing. It vanished. Where's our money? Help us find our money. Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did, and
And
it's a remarkable situation. I hate to say it, I don't really, after you and others, they literally begged these folks to come in and help do something in Mount Vernon for years. I really don't hold out much, but perhaps lower level person will be assigned to investigate, and maybe that's the truth. But I don't know what you.
that's it's funny you say that because I'm concerned because I know that there are definite relationships, direct, personal, friendly relationships between the Attorney General and certain people inside City Hall. I know that you know they know. I mean, I just want to remind you and everybody out there. I know you mentioned it, but just to spell it out for people, in 2016, the Attorney General opened an investigation into Mount Vernon's finances. And when all the problems were happening, and you know, City Hall was literally burning, and taxpayers were being taken advantage of, put into this situation we face right now, they turned a blind eye. and I'm really concerned now that um, what are they going to do? Maybe they should pay the bill that's due because they looked the other way when all of these problems and disasters could have been averted.
Well, here's the only thing about that, and you didn't mean it this way, but when you say they ought to pay the bill, what you mean is me, because they're going to use my money to pay it. If Letitia James wants to reach into her personal bank account and come up with 12 million, you can go right ahead. Money.
Well, perhaps
Find the people with money, get it, get it. Yeah.
Well, perhaps that hopefully they do their job and do that because, it's clear to me that they have all the records. They have everything. They were watching it in real time. And the New York State Controller's Office did a deep audit into the city and looked at all the bank accounts. So they know where the money went. And it didn't just disappear. They
Right.
they got the information. It's just they're not doing anything with it. So,
Uh,
maybe, here's another question. City Hall received, the Patterson Howard administration received $42 million from President Biden, and they're spending $10 million from what I'm learning on digital records. They're recreating records in City Hall that are already there. Why do they have to spend $10 million on that? Meanwhile, they can't find 10 million to $12 million for the school district.
well, I think million years of COVID money. Mount Vernon, as well as other municipalities, not short politically. I don't know if next year or the 2 year, 2 year, maybe.
But it's still, we have to ask a question, what's going to happen? Because, the information is there. We know that real estate was sold over many months throughout the pandemic. The real estate market did very well in Mount Vernon. And the real estate taxes, the transfer taxes that were supposed to go from the city to the school district, those dollars also did not go to the school district. So you're talking about transactions that happened between 2020 and 2023, not just transactions that happened prior to our administration. And what I get, pretty, frustrated about is the constant, blame shifting and gaslighting by
Right.
by City Hall when the problems are truly the problems that they help create. They're just trying to keep it quiet.
It's, it's very distressing. And, you know, I know, your voice has been a very independent voice, which I find very appealing as someone who likes to look at various folks in public life. You're not you know, it's partisan, I think, phrase. And it's be rewarded by people in the community. It's positional leadership. That's my only thing to say about it. But when you're bucking up against powers that be, as you said, you very often wind up on, getting your head knocked around for a little while.
And, and
But
and
shame.
it definitely is. But you listen to Marlon, Kayla's dad, and you hear how here's a hardworking middle class man that raised his daughter the best he could.
Right.
His, Kayla's mom, hardworking middle class woman, a nurse, someone that does, goes above and beyond to take care of her kids and people that are ill, right?
Yep.
And here they go, right? They live in Mount Vernon, they pay a high cost of living, and they're now told they cannot have the service of protection from the police, they cannot have the service and protection from bullying in the schools. They cannot have a sense of safety because the money's there's something funny with the money. And that's where, I take, it's somewhat personal because, having been in that situation growing up, losing friends to gun violence when I was in high school and seeing that there was, it did not have to happen. There's they obviously receive truckloads of money from the federal government for different programs and purposes. It's just the money's not going to the programs and purposes. It's going to somebody's pocketbook. It's disappearing. And what makes it even more horrific is that they know where it's going, they know where it went, and they chose to do nothing about it but, you know, beat up on the messenger. And that's where, I thank you for acknowledging it. But I just know as a son of Mount Vernon, a father, someone that just wants to see, the world a little bit better. That's my purpose and my calling to keep calling it out because we got to do right. But Vince, thanks for talking it through. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. And want to talk about the migrant crisis in New York City. I don't know if you want to stay on for that and talk it through, but you're more than welcome to talk about it right now, right here on what happened here. Don't change it down. How y'all doing out there? Someone say hello. Thank you for joining. I got to talk about the animal shelter. I got to mention that. I'll mention the animal shelter. It's closed now. So, oh my God. What's going on about
Funeral today for Kyrie Nichols, beaten by police in Memphis, Tennessee. The service delayed a bit due to bad weather. Vice President Harris is attending. We're told that the vice president actually spoke to both parents on Tuesday for 30 minutes about Nichols' tragic death and even got Nichols' mother, Rovon Wells, to smile a little bit as she tried to console her. Charles Watson in Memphis. Another location is being searched for any classified documents taken by President Biden from his time as vice president or senator. FBI agents are conducting a search of President Biden's Rehoboth Beach house in Delaware with the full support and cooperation of the president, according to a statement from the president's personal attorney. That's Jared Halpern at the White House. Fox confirms Republican Nikki Haley plans to announce in 2 weeks she's running for president. She was governor of South Carolina and ambassador to the United Nations during the Trump administration. America's listening to Fox News. It all started with the brutal murder of a young married couple. Now, more than 40 years after the couple was found, investigators and forensic genealogists
Come on.
open to uncover a stunning second mystery. Where's the baby? I said, well, wait, he had a baby? We crossed the country speaking with victims' families and those close to the case as we ask, what about Holly? I just want to know what happened. Available on FoxNewsPodcasts.com and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Fox News Podcasts Network. This is the only Red Air podcast featuring common ground, talking to lawmakers weekly from opposite sides of the political spectrum about the issues of the day and how Americans can find common ground in a politicized world. That's just not happening on Capitol Hill. It takes leadership, right? Absolutely does. Along with all your Red Bear favorites like the campaign, the candidates, the All-Star panel, and much more. Available now at FoxNewsPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, let me tell you a bit about Olivet Gospel Church. My name is Pastor Russell McLeod, and for over 20 years, I have been pastor of this evangelical church. At Olivet, we seek to worship God in the beauty of holiness and to engage in a simple obedience to the Word of God. We have a growing and diverse community of worshipers who celebrate Christ so that you never forget the refreshing sense of deliverance and victory I experience in worship. When you visit Olivet Gospel Church, you leave with tools to be a builder in God's kingdom. Let me invite you to visit our place of worship at 3900 Diane Avenue, North 233rd Street, the Bronx. Every Sunday at 8 in the morning, or for a second service at 11, you will be thrilled to participate in the praise and worship and receive an inspirational and comforting message from God's Word. Ever you are, you'll be at home at Olivet Gospel Church. God has given this church a history of ministry that goes back over 50 years in the Bronx. Come, God will remove the roadblocks.
What's up?
Reverend Dr. Russell McLeod.
One of the
This
most
thing
important
keeps
things our
freezing.
local WVOX
How y'all
radio
doing out
station is
there?
known
Just
for
want to
is
say hello. Thanks for sticking with us. There's something going on with Instagram. For some reason, Instagram keeps freezing and dropping, but that's why we got Facebook and YouTube. So just thank you for being a part of the conversation. Looking to show you guys some stuff. Let me bring this up.
All important, informative, and
Let me
informational
see if there's a way to
storm
do this.
announcements. They are being made possible through the generosity of New Rochelle Chevrolet at 291 Main Street, right here in New Rochelle. New Rochelle Chevrolet is a superb Chevrolet dealership, always friendly and welcoming to their customers, helping them get in on really good deals because they know that Westchester shoppers deserve the best. And the staff at New Rochelle Chevrolet, with Frank Endress at the helm, only want the best for their customers. New Rochelle Chevrolet will be informing you as to what is closed on those snowy, wintry days because they have been named the exclusive sponsor of WVOX's Storm Alert. Thank you, New Rochelle Chevrolet, for bringing these reports to the WVOX listeners.
The voices of the people, your neighbors, every day on WVOX. Sometimes it'll drive you nuts, but how sweet it is. 1460 WVOX.
And now back to What Happened Here with Rich Thomas, the former mayor of Mount Vernon, on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here on 1460 on your AM dial or worldwide at WVOX.com. The phone number to call in if you have a question. I thank Vince for calling in earlier to talk about some very important topics. But if you want to call in and talk about some of the things we went over today, phone number is 914-636-0110. Um, Going into break, I mentioned that we would touch upon the migrant crisis in New York City. Want to make sure we touch upon Tyree Nichols, the situation, the horrific, inhumane treatment Tyree Nichols suffered a vicious and violent beating by former Memphis police officers who were part of a unit called Scorpion. Um, there's so much anger and frustration, and we need to continue to express our outrage around that horrific situation that happened there. It's just that's not policing. That is truly a criminal act. That was murder, and I'm happy to see that the Memphis Police Department acts so swiftly. The Shelby County prosecutor moved so quickly. Everybody moved quickly on this. And, they didn't try to step back and hide or sugarcoat it. They said, "Look, this is wrong." And accountability is coming very swift, and it should because a signal needs to be sent that you cannot violate someone's human rights and expect to be um, quote unquote protected. No, this was they failed to render aid. They failed their duty to simply, stop. There were many procedural issues that I could see as someone that has, you know, had oversight over a police department. I could see just, when they did the traffic stop, they're at a red light, and it's not like they pulled them over. They surrounded the car. They approached the vehicle with guns out. Um, and on one of the cameras, the gun was out and it was pointing at another officer. So it's just kind of like, what's going on here? Like why are they didn't seem too interested in putting Mr. Nichols in handcuffs. They seemed really interested in giving him a beating. And there are, of course, the internet always speaks. There's lots of rumors and accounts going around, but there's one that stands out that still remains to be corroborated or verified that there was some kind of motivation of one of the officers to get even with Mr. Nichols for possibly having a relationship with someone that the officer had, a relationship with. But again, this is one of those things where January 6th committee or January 6th, there were all these conspiracy theories that came out about who did this, who did that, and much of it was nothing. So I just mentioned it that, there's even conspiracy theories going out about Mr. Nichols and the officers. What we do know is there's no conspiracy and there's no cover up right now. The video footage is out and it's very clear that it was a horrific act of violence, and it was inhumane, and everybody called for peaceful protests, and that's what the public provided, peaceful protests, because accountability was delivered swiftly. You saw the riots and you saw people ripping up their streets and towns in response to, lack of accountability in other police encounters where, Derek Chauvin, literally killed a man, George Floyd, in front of everybody's eyes, put his knee on his neck and sat there for 9 minutes. And the world watched and we waited for a long time before he was eventually held accountable. And that's something that, everybody wants to, we can't forget that is what it took to get everyone to wake up that we have to pay attention to this. And the officers involved with Breonna Taylor, one of them falsified police records. And Breonna Taylor's situation, that officer eventually was held accountable, and the others were too. But this is why everybody starts to have emotions boil over when they don't see justice, because injustice there is injustice, and every time injustice pops up, it threatens justice everywhere, as Dr. Martin Luther King warned. And when we look at the situation with Kayla Green and seeing that the system failed her, and the system continues to remain silent about what they're doing or going to do to support the family, from counseling, and not just Kayla's family, Maynee Simpson, Kayla's friend who was stabbed and injured in the melee that happened that day where Kayla lost her life. um, there's been no follow-up by the city or the school district to support these families through the grief and the trauma that they're going through. They've just been basically saying, we don't care, shrugging their shoulders. And this is why, when I was talking with our caller earlier, Vince, about why I take such an independent, strong stance when it comes to, our moral obligation to support people in our communities, especially when we're using public tax dollars. So knowing that these are hard working class people that just, they love their kids the same way you do, same way I do. There's no reason why they should be treated any differently or any less when their money is the same color as your money or my money, green. So now knowing that more truth is out and the school district is calling on the city of Mount Vernon to be investigated by the New York State Attorney General because the school district is missing $12 million. Dollars. Think about that. If you're due money and you need that money to render services to your constituents or to your students, but you cannot render those services like having extra guidance counselors or having extra resources available to help the teachers teach, you're going to have problems where kids don't have anything to do other than get into trouble. And that's not something that we want to do. We want our kids to have, safe and productive lives, a great experience, a quality education. But they can't have that if we're constantly, blame shifting and gaslighting like what's going on in City Hall in Mount Vernon. And we can't have that because that's where we get problems like our kids getting, unfortunately taken away from us, killed because they are they're making a bad situation worse. So as we get ready to round out the show and wrap up, I just want to, again, thank Marlon, Kayla's dad, for coming on to talk with me about the situation that he and his family is confronted with, the lack of justice and the failures in it, but also, I thank him for speaking out and taking on City Hall and making it clear that City Hall truly let him down, let his family down, let Kayla down, let all the kids down, let us all down by having no real public safety plan in place to make sure that the parade and its aftermath was structured and orderly and people got home safely. And people, they don't take this serious enough because they look for the photo op, and that was it. That was what the parade was that day. It was all about the photo op for City Hall. But meanwhile, the only thing that lives on for this family is the photo of their daughter, who is gone forever because they don't have she didn't have the safety that she deserved, and the police officers that were there that day, they deserved to have a stronger complement because their lives too were at risk. But they definitely did their best, I know, to try and save Kayla and stop the madness, but they were outnumbered. because there was no plan, no vision, no clue on what to do from City Hall. And I mentioned earlier that with respect to Mount Vernon, we see the issues continue to get worse. There was a police report that came out the other day, last week, in fact, showing that gun violence is up in Mount Vernon 71%. 71%. And if you just step back and look and see, okay, if the school district had their $12 million, if the resources were there for children and families, maybe there could be some competition with the gangs that are stepping in saying, hey, are you bored? How about we just go, let's go do something, because idle hands are the devil's playground. And that's what we see. But guess what? We're not going to let that happen in our community. We're going to keep stepping up to fight back and push back and keep asking the question of what happened here so it don't happen again. Don't see you next week. We thank you for joining us to talk about some of the hard issues, but don't worry, we're going to keep lifting up our city and uplifting our community. Take care and have a great week.